Today on
Doomed!
Today on Doomed, more like what's been going on the past 2 weeks or so. I take 1 week off, and not even I was trying to stay off the grid as much as possible. Take 1 week off though, a week and a half sort of, and apparently I miss out on everything. We pulled out of Afghanistan? What? When did this happen? CM Punk returns to pro wrestling, and that's maybe issue to discuss for the second half of the show, or maybe another podcast entirely. But anyway, point being, a lot has happened in this past week and a half, and I needed to have an episode to sort of update me on what's going on, get me back into the swing of things. And let me pull us up here on the screen. Who better to join me to do so than my guest on this episode, Zach Petrizzo of Salon. Thank you for joining me today, Zach.
Thank you for having me again, Matt.
Now, I gotta say, you're back on this show probably maybe quicker than any other guest. Now, I'm not saying you weren't going to be back on this show. You definitely were, but usually I try to, I have a guest on, maybe I try to milk it for at least a couple of months before I bring them back on, so it doesn't get repetitive. But hey, man, so much happened. You covered so much of it, and also you were at the Lindell Cyber Symposium live, and so I was just like, screw my arbitrary rules. It's my show. It makes no sense to not have a guest on if they got something good, and in this case, many things good. So here you are. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Yeah, I think last time I was on talking about my adventures at CPAC, of course, down in Dallas. So now we're talking MyPillow stuff. It's great to be back. Love the show.
Oh, thank you, and I love having you on. Now, I guess there's a lot to talk about. For the teaser I put out on social media, I said we got to talk about Mike Lindell, we got to talk about Roger Stone, we got to talk about who else? Mark Levin. Oh boy, that one I can't wait to get to, but we'll keep that one for the end, I guess. But let's start. Let's now go back. It's been about 2 weeks, but that's fine. I actually discussed this on my last show before I took a week off last week. So I did talk about the Cyber Symposium on the August 12th show. But I talked about it with a few clips that I'd seen online and from my own viewing, just dipping in and out of the live stream. Basically the summary was Mike Lindell's big Cyber Symposium, a dud. But we're not here to just rehash something we already talked about. There's something way different about this show and this discussion we're about to have. And that's because no, you did not watch the live stream from the comfort of your own home like I did. You were there.
I was.
You spent 3 days. What was it, 12 hours a day? Was that how long the thing was?
Almost, yeah. 12 hours a day, dinner at 4:30, and it went on sometimes until like 10 p.m. at night.
And you were there 3 days doing that. What time would it start?
Most days would get kind of kicked off around 8. So sometimes longer than 12 hours.
Geez, so you basically camped out there every day.
Yeah. No, I was in Sioux Falls hanging out with Mike Lindell for like a solid 3 days. And word is on the street that he stayed up for all 72 hours. But who knows?
Well, it wouldn't surprise me. He certainly has probably done those 72-hour no sleep binges before, knowing his history. But I gotta say, did they serve breakfast, lunch, and dinner, by the way? Did you get served meals and everything?
They did. It was an interesting ordeal. It was dinner at 4:30. It was breakfast super early, and some of the meals were, I think, questionable at best in terms of. I'm not a picky eater, but it seemed as though the green beans that were from a couple days ago, had a weird odor to them. It was strange stuff.
Wow, give me an example of something that they served there.
Yeah, so there was one dinner where it was like this roast beef that, roast beef, it's a hit or miss type of thing, but they had roast beef there. They had this corn that was like gray. It wasn't like yellow at all. It's just straight up like gray corn, and then these green beans that had this really weird odor to them, at least a couple days old, maybe a couple months old. So it was like an old military style hall, and it seemed like the food was kind of from that, perhaps 70s era.
Was it catered? We're getting into the hard hitting stuff here, obviously, but was it catered, or because I could totally picture Mike Lindell, preparing like a week before, cooking the meals for the 3-day event and bringing them in his tinfoil trays or whatever. Sure he's got a lot of tinfoil at home, so I mean, I'm sure he had some to spare.
It wasn't catered. It was more so like baked and made by the facility, and then this arena that we were in was kind of this old military hall. It kind of had that bingo vibes type of feel to it, that kind of older 80s decor, if you will.
Ah, now so I guess like a VFW hall.
Yeah, exactly.
So tell me about this event. So tell me a little bit about the venue. Was it a VFW hall? I mean, why South Dakota? I think I might have discussed being that, COVID restrictions, and Mike Lindell apparently lives not so far from there. And tell me a little bit about the venue and why, and the whole atmosphere, and why South Dakota.
Yeah, I mean, it was a wild 3 days. Got in there the first day a little bit late, and as I was kind of coming into Sioux Falls, I'd never been to a place kind of like it, and was kind of curious. And I think we had discussed this on the show before, but I'd covered Mike Lindell for about a year and a half prior to going to the conference. So I've been with Mike kind of since the beginning, since it all started with his famous like Rose Garden speech, till of course now. And yeah, I was pumped to be there. Got there initially, and kind of it kind of got kicked off like kind of these very monotonous and boring speeches from like all these professors. Kind of started out day one, no real data type of stuff. Started palling around, saw Steve Bannon there, who of course is kind of like the go-to pusher for all things Mike Lindell conspiracy theories. So saw him, saw a couple other.
Actually, always been interesting to me because listen, Steve Bannon is obviously a terrible person, but he also has seemed a little bit smarter than the other people in that world, and I always felt like, he played up these people to get what he needed, but at the end of the day, he knows they're all a bunch of cranks, and It seemed like since Trump's been out of office, he's sort of been, there's a lot of clips going around of some crazy on his show, and Steve Bannon's looking like the reasonable one, questioning whatever they're saying on his show with lots of caution and very little belief.
Yeah, exactly. I think you hit that nail on the head. I think Steve Bannon sees much of this as an opportunity to almost grift, right? He might not necessarily believe all these things that are coming out of these people's mouths, but like he does it in a way where he's not necessarily legally liable, and kind of poses himself as this like third-party journalist type, right? That's kind of on his daily podcast called The War Room. It's this kind of podcast TV hybrid thing, website show. And that's the way he kind of bills himself, as this like journalist, third party, but yet he pushes things, right? Like he has a promo code for the MyPillow, right? So it's like,
they were pushing that hard at the event.
Yeah.
Oh boy,
very hard. But he does it in a way where he distances himself and watches out for legal liability issues. I think in a way that perhaps is smarter than your average right wing grifter, right? I think Steve Bannon has been around for a while. Right.
Yeah, he's still on a lot of like podcast networks and everything. Like you could download him on Apple Pod. Like he's careful to make sure he stays on those platforms.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I definitely think. Look, he used to run Breitbart, and through Breitbart had some tough times that he was able to keep Breitbart alive. So I don't think he's I think he's a lot better operator than like Jacob Wool, right? Like there's a difference.
Right. So you're at this event, South Dakota. It's close to Mike Lindell's house. He probably, he didn't go to bed. We have already established. He probably, I don't even know. But we'll get to this in a second. I'm like getting ahead of myself. So you're at this 3-day, 12+ hour event per day. Geez, I can't even imagine. And it's a big nothing. He never really presents this data that everyone was waiting for. His big reveal, which I guess was supposed to come on the last day, gets ruined because his data expert, his cyber expert, leaks to the Washington Times, I believe, the night before. So the night of the second day, that they don't got nothing. So what was the atmosphere there? Like, you were at the event when this Washington Times leak came out, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. That was that second night going into the third day that Josh Merritt, one of Lindell's own cyber experts, who, was one of Lindell's own guys, right? He had said, look, this is a pile of nothing. And he called it a quote unquote turd that, Lindell kind of wanted shined into a diamond, right? So it was a very, very, I think for Lindell, it was kind of surreal for him, and he didn't know exactly what to do. So he just started spinning. I mean, you just saw him up on stage that third day, just starting going bananas, just spinning circles, claiming that I was an Antifa infiltrate, that somehow Salon was behind this mass conspiracy to smuggle Antifa activists in, right? And there were no anti-fascist activists there. No,
besides
it's
yourself,
the middle
of course.
of South Dakota, right? It's literally the middle of South Dakota. It's one of those things that lives in the minds of like many like right-wing pundits, right? Like I was listening into Mark Levin, and we'll get to him a little later, but I was listening to Mark Levin this past weekend, and Mark Levin said he alluded to Harris, Vice President Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, and the Secretary of State being all part of Antifa because they were wearing black, literally. I'm like, this is nuts, right? So it's something weird in the zeitgeist of like all right-wing personalities. I don't know if you've seen that.
Oh yeah, everything is Antifa. Antifa is hiding behind the bushes, ready to jump out and steal their newspaper in the morning. I mean, it's incredible that everything is easy to blame for them on Antifa. But one thing that did happen though, that I believe they tried to blame on Antifa, and when I went away, this was still up in the air. So you could maybe update me on this. Mm-hmm. Mike Lindell had claimed on that last day, on the morning of that last day, he looked really frazzled on day 3 when he got there. And he claimed he was attacked at his hotel room the day before. And as I'm leaving the online sphere to purify my mind for a week, I saw that he had claimed that someone had the attack was the form of someone coming over, pretending to be a friendly, asking for a photo. And when he embraced Mike Lindell, he put his arm around him, and Mike Lindell felt a sharp pain in his armpit. Yeah. And at that moment, that was the attack, by the way. That was the attack that we're talking about. And Mike Lindell had been floating that he thought maybe this guy was the Antifa infiltrator they were waiting for, or some attacker, I don't know, a deep state undercover agent, whatever he think they may be. And he even said, like, I don't know if they like injected me with something there or poked me with something. What happened there? Did I miss something, or did we just leave it there?
Yeah, no, this is absolutely nuts. So going into that third day yet again, I think there are theories that I have after speaking with a lot of people that were one of the witnesses and others about what actually went down. But what Lindell claims is exactly what you just outlined, right? It's that he was quote unquote attacked by this kind of like bad faith actor who wanted to take a selfie, yet, took an orange device and basically stabbed it into Lindell's side. And Lindell had hypothesized that somehow I was behind this attack, somehow other forces were behind this attack. I don't think that's the case. I think it was probably a jokester who, according to one of the people that I spoke with, who's like this pro-Trump congressional candidate who has no reason to lie, right? Of course, like he's someone who would be considered a friendly to Lindell, right? I mean, this super pro-Trump pundit, he called it like a nothing burger, quote unquote, right? And he claimed to me that it was a tangerine in the attacker's hand, right? So like there's a big spread there between what happened and what witnesses are saying happened.
I mean, I just want to say the reason I knew Mike Lindell's version of events so well, you might have noticed I even knew some things that only someone who was there at the moment could have possibly known, and that's because I was the attacker. I'm coming out right now. I'm saying I inserted now. But I mean, it sounds like it could have even been an overzealous supporter, like really happy to see Lindell, and he squeezed him. And I don't know, maybe the dude didn't cut his nails or something, and he dug him into Lindell, giving him a big old hug. I don't know. It just seemed so ridiculous. Now,
yeah. There's also another aspect to the story. This other guy claims that like there was no this pro-Trump congressional candidate who's kind of like his story's kind of evolved a little bit, which is a little bit strange. But like one of his claims is that like the attack never happened, and Lindell just like went up to his room in the elevator after someone had said something like not nice to him, right? So there's like these weird iterations of the story, and there's seemingly, you know, I think Sioux Falls police was looking into this, had looked into it, and basically said like, you know, we're not going to release anything now. You know, we're not going to confirm or deny we're looking into this. But when I was speaking with people, and I was speaking to them, you know, in my capacity as a journalist, because, you know, Mike Lindell had accused me of things, kind of wide-ranging, different charges, different criminal charges he was accusing me of, which were, of course, false. One of the things the investigators, I mean, like when I was talking to them about this, like many of them were laughing, right? like people weren't like, they were like, okay, like they kind of got like the writing on the wall, so to speak. And they kind of understood, okay, this is getting out of control and stuff just isn't adding up. Right.
Right. I mean, you know, it's imagine having to look into this. I can only it seems like a waste. Now,
there was this joke too posed on Twitter, which I guess some detectives had seen, which some people were calling it like a run by fruiting, which is like a phrase off of like Mrs. Doubtfire and stuff like that. Oh. So it turned into kind of this joke about the tangerine, even in kind of the police department.
Damn, when the police are even mocking you, I mean, jeez. Now, I gotta ask. It seems like this would be the way this event went. It seems like this would be a major blow to the legitimacy of whoever legitimate he possibly could have been. But in those circles, let's say Mike Lindell's the MyPillow guy is a legitimate expert in this world. He was going to unveil the big election fraud that stole the presidency from Donald Trump. This was going to be the big moment where it all came together, and it did not pan out at all for Lindell. Did this strike a blow to Mike Lindell's legitimacy? Like, did the right completely turn on Lindell when I signed off for the week? When I went away for that week, is Lindell now a joke to the whole right and is now no longer even in those circles?
It's a really good question. The short answer is absolutely not, right? But the more detailed answer is, look, I think some people are starting to kind of see the writing on the wall. And some people are starting to notice that, you know, many of Lindell's hypotheses aren't necessarily coming true. One of the most prominent being Roger Stone, of course, right? Roger Stone came out this past week and said, look, you know, Mike hasn't produced it. He doesn't think Trump's going to be reinstated. You know, stop speaking, you know, pushing bizarre conspiracies. So I think that is notable that Stone's coming out and speaking as Lindell, but largely, absolutely not. Look, Steve Bannon was there, saw the entire thing. I mean, the guy knows that it's a pile full of crap, and is still pushing Lindell, right? So many on the right, and everyone from Diamond and Silk to to Steve Bannon to you name it, Dan Bongino still hawks, you know, MyPillow products. So I think there's plenty of support still for Lindell.
Now, didn't he come out now and he's got a new date on when Trump is going to be reinstated? Like, it was August 13th, that Friday when I signed off for the week, and I said I need to, and I was off the grid. That was the day that Trump was supposed to, according to Lindell, ascend to his rightful place in the White House once again. Of course, that didn't happen. So what's the new date?
The new date is New Year's Eve or New Year's, you know, kind of the 31st. So by the end of the year, Trump will be back in office, is Lindell's claim now. And I think it's important just because we keep seeing, you know, it's important to at least highlight this just because we keep seeing the 2020 conspiracy theories continue to come back. They're not going away, right?
Why December 31st, though?
That's a great question. I think it's just pushing the can down the road personally. But, I think 2021 is kind of the end of it, is kind of what they're looking at now.
Right. Well, Lindell, I look forward to seeing his next event. I'm sure he's got something else. Does he have another event in the pipeline, or does he still claim he has the smoking gun? Or is it just like, I'm guessing, is he just like, I'm guessing December 31st now?
No, I mean, his big thing is he still has it. He still has the packet captures, which all the experts that Salon spoke to at the Cyber Symposium, we had our own expert there who had, all the credentials under the sun. Other people had their experts there. CNN had an expert there. All of our experts came out of this room and said, look, this is a bunch of BS. But Lindell still claims to this day that he has the packet captures to the 2020 election. Currently, there's at least one person who's going after the $5 million who that he had proposed giving out if someone was able to disprove his claims.
Oh, right.
So yeah. So I think look, he still claims he's got it, but all our experts say that's a load of crap. I mean, there was even from the conservative fact-checking site, The Dispatch, who that site is. It leans right. And, their takeaway even from the event was, look, this is a bunch of nothing, right?
Didn't he kick out a Gateway pundit person too? Like, that is, to me, that is like, I don't know what's more conspiratorial than claiming that the Gateway pundit is against Trump and your claims, your right-wing conspiratorial claim. Like, how'd that go down?
Yeah, so this was an event that happened on day 2. Myself and another reporter from a right of center outlet were kind of sitting on some high risers above the event, kind of looking down on the main stage, what they were calling like the deck plates of like this war or something like this. And when I was sitting there, I was just kind of hanging out on my computer, filing some stories and kind of looking on Twitter, stuff like that, right? And all of a sudden, this Gateway pundit starts like coming up behind me and just started recording my computer, like no apparent reason, just recording my computer. Then I get up and I'm like, dude, like I kind of see what's going on here, like what's going on, like kick sand, like get out of here, I'm like, what's going on? And right away he shoves a camera in my face and starts, asking me all these like questions and stuff. And long story short, this guy had been really like kind of abrasive and abusive to this other reporter who I was working with a couple minutes earlier. So things kind of got carried away, and this guy started shoving just the camera in my face, asking me these ridiculous questions. And I said, yes, you guys are conspiracy theorists. Like, yes, you guys are. I was just telling him the truth. He was asking questions, and I decided, okay, I'll, if you really want to know, sure, I'm happy to say you're a conspiracy theorist, because you are. But long story short, security had kind of noticed that. And one of the rules outlined by Lindell was that there was none of that type of stuff allowed at the conference. So this guy basically violated Lindell's rules. And so long story short, security removes him. He tries to come back into the event, and about 10 security officers frog march him out. But then this story, actually what really happened, gets twisted by the Gateway pundit. They put out like this weird hit piece that doesn't mention names but insinuates things and is, clearly defamatory. But anyways, they spin it in a way where they claim that basically he was kicked out because he approached Antifa activists, right? So then this is how the whole Antifa claim starts to gain speed. And then, I think the Gateway pundit article was basically kind of the starting point for Lindell to claim, look, Antifa's here. But, the Gateway pundit did it in such a way that just was completely, false, and left out that, their reporter initially was harassing a female reporter who was there, who was also a Facebook fact checker, which they don't like because, of course, they get hit on Facebook for pushing fake news, right?
Right.
So there's a lot of layers to this, but long story short, I think the Gateway pundit article was kind of the start to what had become of the Antifa claims. So
now, to end this part of our conversation with Lindell, and we'll move on to the next topic. But when I talked about the Cyber Symposium in the last episode of this show 2 weeks ago, I had a conversation with listeners about whether we think Mike Lindell is the grifter or the griftee? Because he seems like someone who is a true believer. Like, he's not one of those MAGA guys, one of those right-wingers who are doing it simply for the grift. Now, I know I just said they were constantly promoting the MyPillow stuff, but I actually think in that case, that's Mike Lindell trying to make the best of the situation he's in, where he has, I think, lost a lot of money from pursuing this. And, you know, he needs to promote MyPillow to his new fan base, who are right-wingers and conservatives, in order to try to make up for the money he's lost. But I still think he's net negative. But he continues on because he really believes this stuff. Like, this isn't someone who's like, you know, who is making not much money and all of a sudden hit it rich, appealing to the right. This is someone who had a broader customer base, was making a lot of money already, and decided to go all in on something he straight up believed. Now, you know, you could be both the grifter and the griftee. I could understand that argument too. But I do think there are more people probably taking money from Mike Lindell by convincing him he's onto something and keeping this whole thing going.
Absolutely. I was speaking with another reporter who was, you know, from the Washington Times, and, you know, we had spoken kind of briefly about how, you know, this might have all been kind of a play by some more shady Trump world characters who many listeners might have not have ever heard of before. You know, people like Mary Fawning, these people that had kind of trafficked in a lot of misinformation to the Gateway Pundit and released information to right-wing sites that was just clearly false. You know, claims about the election, you know, in Nevada that ballots were being like hidden, and there were like Biden buses that rolled up in the middle of the night. This was a claim that was repeated by like Matt Schlapp, who's like a frequent Fox News guest. So there were a lot of debunked conspiracy theories coming from, you know, Fawning and others kind of loosely associated with her. And that's who we believe, you know, might have possibly, and Lindell even admits, you know, Mary Fawning and other kind of fraudsters. Dennis Montgomery is another name. This is a fraudster who's wanted on charges out of like Nevada, I believe. So it's all these kind of grifter types that probably sold Lindell a pile of crap. And Lindell truly believes, you know, it's legit.
It's, you know, it's incredible to see him just throw his money at this. It's a losing endeavor. But hey, if this is how a rich guy wants to waste his money, then by all means.
Definitely not. I don't think he's a grifter. I really do believe that he believes in what he's pushing, like 110%. Like, I spent so many hours on the phone with this guy that, you know, he would call me up at, you know, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning telling me about stuff. And I have a hard time believing that he's not legitimately behind what he's saying and that it's a front. I really don't think it's a ploy to sell pillows either. I really think he unfortunately believes all this garbage.
Now, I just in the YouTube chat, someone had a great idea to put together a poll. So apparently YouTube has a new poll option. So in the YouTube chat, you can vote right now, youtube.com/Matt Binder. Go to the live stream. You can vote whether he's the grifter or he's the one being grifted, the griftee. Do that, and at the end of this interview, I'll hit up the results, and we'll find out what the audience thinks. Zach. So now, yeah, it'll be right now.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah,
really cool.
Right now, I could tell you that grifted. He's the griftee. He's the one being grifted. Is in the lead, but we'll see at the end of the show. Now, Zach, let's move on now to, you mentioned Roger Stone. And I've been completely out of this whole thing. So I don't, you have to completely, I can't add anything. So I'm depending on you here, buddy. What is going on with Roger Stone and Getter, the social media, the latest conservative social media platform launched by Trump associate Jason Miller?
Yeah, so Getter is, of course, like you said, the right-wing up-and-coming site. I would say it probably is starting to outpace, and probably, quite frankly, already has outpaced Parler and Gab. I mean, Getter is really...
Gab is no surprise, but...
Sure. I think I would say I'm definitely among like these Trump types, right? Like all the former Trump associates are on it, from Gorka to like, you know, Tim Murphy, all these former Trump-related people, which I think makes it semi-powerful. But beyond that, look, I think Steve Bannon is on it as well. But furthermore, Roger Stone was banned, was suspended from Getter. What was this? Not last night, but the night before. I'm losing track of the days here. Wednesday night. So long story short, he's suspended, goes to Gab that same night and starts just bad mouthing Steve Bannon, bad mouthing Jason Miller. I mean, fighting words. I mean, really.
Why Steve Bannon though? Does Steve Bannon have a stake in Getter?
Not a stake in Getter, but he's kind of one of the main proponents of Getter. He's been one of the main people kind of pushing it. And dating back to like 2019, Roger Stone and Steve Bannon have always had this weird beef because Bannon testified against him.
Right, and Bannon also replaced Stone as Trump's campaign manager, which I know they did that because they needed to, apparently, because Stone has even said it was his choice, but I'm sure that didn't, knowing the type of person Stone is, I'm sure that ruffled his feathers, whoever would have taken his place.
Yeah, and I think ever since then, ever since Bannon testifying against him and kind of ratting him out or whatever have you, and ever since there's been a weird war there. I know, Roger Stone claims that Bannon and Miller are like lovers of sorts, and he also claims that Steve Bannon is eating like cannibalism type of stuff, eating his sidekick who is Raheem Kassam, which is like this former Breitbart editor guy. So there's a lot of drama, there. But anyways, Roger Stone was of course suspended from Getter, and that just caused World War IX. He claims he's being censored, and then I would say halfway through yesterday, Jason Miller around midday came out and said, "Whoa, this was kind of like a mistake. We didn't mean to, but the damage had kind of already been done," and Stone was clearly ticked off. So they reinstated his account and claimed it was due to a lot of Roger Stone bots. Unsure how true that claim is. But look, it made a lot of people upset. I saw my tweet being screenshotted and shared on Getter as like, oh, Getter is censoring people. So like clearly people weren't pleased on Getter. I think this question of content moderation kind of comes up again. In regards to platforms, which you have plenty of experience dealing with.
Right. I mean, it's really interesting how these guys, and when I say these guys, I mean all these platforms, Getter, Parler, Gab, Rumble, BitChute, which maybe not so much as the others, but they all have their lines that they refuse to have crossed. And in a lot of ways, those lines are usually even more conservative, and I use that in a sense of like less freedom. Like they like to espouse freedom to post whatever you want, freedom of speech. These sites usually tamp down on that even harder than the mainstream sites. Like, adult film stars, sex workers, they can post their stuff on Twitter, no problem. I know there's other mainstream networks they can't, but on Twitter, for example, they can post clips of their sex scenes in films and no problem. On these other sites, especially like Parler and Gab, like they just post like an erotic photo, like something that would have been on the cover of like Maxim magazine back in like the 90s, and all of a sudden that person could be banned.
Yeah, exactly. I think one of the funniest things was this Sonic hedgehog porn that was popping up on Getter, right? So this is like furry porn on Getter, and this was content that was clearly making Miller and the leaders of Getter, the leadership team at Getter, upset, because then there were like leftists on Getter, like complete trolls, but there were leftists on Getter that were upset that their accounts were being banned and claiming that their posts were being taken down, right? So like I think censorship, whatever that, whatever, but like in a way, Getter has the same type of issues, and just in different ways, right? Like
Right.
they're taking the same type of measures to take down certain content as any other platform. Yet they claim to be, this bastion of free speech, which, I don't know.
Right.
I don't know how true that is.
I always say, listen, if you want to be this free speech network, as in, and free speech again, it doesn't really, free speech is whatever they want it to be. It's their platform.
Exactly.
But if you actually want like an anything goes platform, then I mean, go for it. I've never seen one though, because no one wants that to exist. I mean, the idea that there is some, I would love to see it actually, where, and by the way, this also means that you cannot promote content that you like. You can't have an algorithm that's recommending shit, because once again, that's putting your finger, your thumb on the scale and saying that some speech is better than others. If you want this free speech bastion, you just gotta let it fly and let the free market of ideas just that's my thing. That's my thing. No one has created this network that actually would mean what they are saying they want, because they don't really want that. They just want their ideas to be heard the most.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, look, there are trolls that are posting pictures of Sonic's smelly feet, and then they claim that they're getting banned on Getter, right? So it's like the whole thing is just a mess. And I think, look, it's just, it's hard to say, at least now. But, I think after a couple of months, these platforms kind of fade away and everyone returns to Twitter, right? Like this is the case study with Dan Bongino. He said he was leaving. 4 months later, he pops back on Twitter, right? So it's like, they'll be back. They're kind of like, right. Pokemons or something. They always, or boomerangs, excuse me. Boomerangs, they always come back.
I gotta get on Getter. I didn't realize that they took the torch from Parler. Yeah, that's crazy.
It's really sad on Parler these days. like I hate to say it, but like Sean Hannity comment is only getting low engagement. I mean, I remember on Parler when people were upvoting things 2,000 times type of stuff, but now you'll see 100 upvotes on a Sean Hannity post, and you're like, wow, it's kind of sad. And when you look at the Chartbeat analytics, it was up at 30 million page views, and now it's down to 3.
Damn.
Per month.
How the mighty fall, right?
Yeah.
So now let's talk about. So wait, before we move on, actually. So Roger Stone back on Getter officially, as in they unbanned his account. Is he using it though, or is he still declaring war?
I don't think he's using it. He's mostly on Gab, kind of declaring war and going on to Alex Jones's conspiracy InfoWars show daily, and kind of just railing against Steve Bannon and Jason Miller. And kind of claiming censorship still.
I love that he went to Gab after Getter, because honestly, Gab seemed like the right place for Roger Stone from the get-go.
I would have loved to see the day and age at Roger, because I got into this in 2019, so I think Stone was banned before I ever made it onto Twitter. But I would have loved to interact with Roger Stone on Twitter. It would have been hilarious.
Oh, he was an interesting guy on Twitter, but
was he?
He would just go after people like any other person would. He was just it's holy shit, Roger Stone is in my account. If you were a woman, it's oh, Roger Stone's in my account calling me a slut. It's he was just like any other Twitter a-hole,
Yeah, got it. Fair enough.
Let's now talk. Now, this is what I really wanted to talk about. This was a good one. So Mark Levin, he wrote a book, and it's a bestseller, right? Can you tell me a little bit about this book? How it's topping the charts, right?
It's called American Marxism. Yeah, and of course, this is the Fox News host, radio host, kind of media mogul, right-wing media mogul, if you will, Mark Levin, who for years, and I think fair to say almost decades now, has really dominated the right-wing media sphere as kind of this pundit. I know, friends, uncles are always, talking about Mark Levin and talking about, everything about Mark Levin. They listen to him around DC on the radio, on the way home from work type of thing. And yeah, American Marxism topped the charts, was number one slot, I believe, at one point for maybe still is for books, on the New York Times list, and clearly being bolstered by Fox News and other right wing pundits. But this was a big mess up for him.
Now, I'm going to play this clip.
Yeah.
I don't want to get ahead of myself here because I want to see if the audience realizes what's going on here. Now, someone put together this clip. I want to make sure I properly give them credit. What happened to this? Give me 1 second. What did I do with this? There was a clip here from... Oh my God, I can't believe I lost it. Give me 1 second.
I can send it to you here.
I have the clip, actually. I just wanted to properly give credit to this person who... okay. I can't find it anymore. Unbelievable. Well, someone put together this this compilation of Mark Levin talking about really what is the backbone of his entire book. And it's this school where basically a lot of leftist Marxist thought, a lot of critical theory was basically, it was the birthplace of it. Let's hear about this school. Let me know if you catch what's going on here. What the weird thing going on here is.
Critical race theory, which comes out of critical theory, that was invented by a Marxist from the Franklin School of Marxism. Okay, when you look at the background of critical race theory, this comes out of critical theory. Where does that come from? It comes from a school called the Franklin School that comes out of Berlin. These are a group of Marxists. One of the gentlemen fled Hitler, came to the United States. He became a very prominent professor. His name is Herbert Marcuse. From the Franklin School of Marxism. The Franklin School.
So if you're not sure what's going on here, maybe you're not...
It looks like some people in the chat got it, actually.
Yeah, it does. Apparently, Mark Levin, who wrote this entire book about Marxism, that's topping the charts. It's the talk of all the conservative world right now. He apparently doesn't know the foundation of what he's talking of like the topic. Like he doesn't know what he's talking about at all. It's not the Franklin School. It's the Frankfurt School. And did he say Berlin, if I'm not mistaken, or?
He did say Berlin. Yes.
It wasn't in Berlin. It wasn't in Berlin either. It was in what is now modern day Germany.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, hence the name, right?
Right.
The name implies where it's located. Yeah, this is just like a classic screw up. I mean, look, he claims to be an expert. The name of the book is what he claims to be an expert in, yet is missing like the most fundamental facts associated with that topic, right? I mean, it is so bad. I thought this would be such a bigger story just because, look, it's a Fox News host who literally claims to be an expert on a topic, who is the #1 book in the country, and is completely, just claiming things that are just factually incorrect, right? And I think Fox News is always so quick to point out our errors, but yet, we haven't heard an on-air correction yet. We haven't heard Fox News remedy, issue a correction, So it was just today that the publisher, Simon & Schuster, had reached out to me after I'd reached out a couple times, asking about what they're going to do about it. And they said that there will be a correction in the book. But look, there were already 400,000 copies sold, right?
And the thing is, again, like I said, this isn't something like, oh, there was a typo or, there was a random fact that was just used like as an analogy or to bolster some like small point made in the book, not something that undermines the entire basis of what this guy claims to talk about. No, like he clearly doesn't know what he's talking about. This is not a mistake you make if you're talking about Marxism. Well, first of all, I don't want to get too into it, but one of the earliest episodes of this program, I think it was either episode 24 or 25. You can go back, doomedcast.com. Might have even been one of the earliest YouTube episodes. I had on a guest, and we did an entire episode on cultural Marxism, which again is a thing that doesn't exist because Marxism is not a cultural thing. Marxism is an economic theory, an economic thought. And basically, cultural Marxism is their way of being very anti-Semitic without saying that they hate the Jews. So that, if you want to go check out more about cultural Marxism and where that comes into play, and what I'm sure is in Mark Levin's book, you can check out that episode. But you can't get the Franklin School. You can't do that. You can't say the Franklin School when writing about this stuff because it just shows you're a bullshit artist. And I wonder if he even wrote the book. I mean, clearly, I don't think he did. I mean, it got to have been a ghostwriter.
That was one of my big questions. Yeah, no, absolutely. And look, it also, I think it's important to point out, it wasn't just on TV. He wasn't just saying this on TV. He was saying it in his book too, right? Like he was making these BS claims in the book. And it's just like, how did an editor not see this? Or like, who was writing the book? Like, there's so many questions I asked Simon and Schuster. And of course, they didn't address many of them or any of them. But like, what's going on here?
Right. It's incredible. It's incredible. I love that. I saw that video and I was like, this is great. I heard it and I was like, wait a minute, hold on. Because it's so like, if you don't, that's the thing. That's why he's able to get away with it. Because this isn't like regular, like this isn't like a topic that is just like a well-known thing. Like it's not like, oh, I know that person got the singer of the Rolling Stones or the Beatles wrong. Because everyone knows, who plays bass in the Beatles or sings for the Rolling Stones. We're talking like something that if you don't know the topic and the issue at hand, you're not going to catch it. But if you do know the topic and the issue at hand, it's like, holy shit, this guy has got no clue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I don't know how he recovers from something like this. No, I'm joking. He brushed it off, and on radio he was claiming that Salon was the only outlet to really write about this because it had kind of circulated on Twitter, but we kind of dug into it a bit more. And he said that we're somehow communists destroying the country, and he was going to expose us this week. He's yet to do that, but we'll see.
All right. Well, I look forward to Mark Levin exposing those leftist reporters over at Saloon.
It's funny, when I was back at Mediaite too, he used to call me like a low IQ buffoon, and back when he was on Twitter, he used to get all upset. He called me or one time he said I'm with Media Matters, which I was never with Media Matters, but he said that I don't know the difference between carbon dioxide and hydrogen or something. I don't know. He's a weird guy. He's such a strange guy.
Oh boy. Oh man. Was there anything else I wanted to talk to you about? Oh, I didn't mention this one to you. So if you don't, off the top of your head, that's cool. But I saw that you had some coverage of my mouse just froze. Over the last week or so about Lauren Boebert, my favorite congresswoman. Because she's my favorite congresswoman because she is the daughter, without a shadow of a doubt, of pro wrestling superstar Stan Lane, even though he won't admit to it.
She definitely is. Yeah, I mean, I wrote an entire feature on this. Yeah, no, it's without question that's the case. Oh, yeah. I mean, the core documents.
Right. I had David Bixenspan on this show previously to talk about it. And yeah, he told, when your article came out, he was giving it props because you guys he dug deep into this stuff and he found some documents no one else did. And then after he did that, you guys found some additional ones and that really sealed the deal. So it was an impressive all around, quite honestly. Lauren Boebert could be on Monday Night Raw right now, but instead she's in Congress, unfortunately. I would probably she probably would have been a great heel, by the way. I think I would have been a big fan of pro wrestler Lauren Boebert. If she's just as, she's just as terrible as she is as a congresswoman, I'm sure I would have been a big fan because as a wrestling heel, that's a great thing to be. But she has been caught red-handed doing some sort of underhanded things when it comes to filing reports about how much or her husband makes, or what he does for work, and then she also, like, there was another thing she didn't report. Tell me the lowdown, Zach.
Yeah. And so more recently, like within the past week, 2 weeks ish, week and a half ish, Lauren Boebert has kind of been under new scrutiny for filings, and her FEC filings are patchy work at best, right? Like just bad stuff, not disclosing clear conflicts of interest. And one of the biggest conflicts of interest that I believe the Daily Beast first stumbled upon, the Washington Post, and then Salon ran some additional investigative work on what occurred, but it has to do with a lot of different parts. There's an airplane that Salon looked into, but I think the larger thing is kind of this idea that while she was pushing to loosen drilling regulations, her husband was one of the foremost kind of like consultants when it came to energy in the area within her district, right? So there's like a clear conflict of interest. She didn't disclose it on any of her forms, and here he is this year in 2021 making close to $750,000 doing this consulting work with this firm called Terra Energy. So it's the height of conflicts of interest in Washington D.C. And yet she didn't disclose it, and isn't answering basic questions about why she didn't make that clear. So she faces, possible issues with the House Ethics Committee, and potentially is going to land in some hot water because, of course, those violations aren't Republican Democrat; they're just violations, right?
Right. Now, what was this? Looking at this article you wrote, sale of a cargo plane remains a mystery.
Yeah, so this was a cargo plane that was associated with, it was like this kind of like Cessna Cub red type of airplane. Not a huge airplane, but this was without question, a couple $100,000 plane, and valuable. And it's unclear exactly like how she used it. If she used it as a way to avoid paying some taxes, use it as a vehicle to write off taxes. Much of this is still a mystery we're trying to unravel. But it's kind of super weird stuff. And there's kind of a pattern. We started covering Lauren Boebert. I don't know if I've talked to you about this story, but she took like this tour that was like super off the grid ahead of the January 6th incident. And I found some postings from her son on Instagram talking about this tour and stuff. And, it's just a pattern of weird behavior that's kind of patchy, that just doesn't follow the rules with Lauren Boebert. Like nothing does, right? From like an off hours Capitol tour ahead of the January 6th event to these weird filings to everything. It's just like, it's very strange.
Yeah. I know her husband, apparently. We were just talking about, those missing filings. Her husband apparently makes like $1 million working for an energy firm.
Yeah, Jason. So Jason, that's Terra Energy, and he's really well connected in there, and there's clearly some type of influence there that's being exerted because Terra Energy is one of the biggest energy producers within that district, within her district. So I don't know. We're still getting to the bottom of exactly how much influence Boebert has, or should I say Jason has over Lauren and over Congress. But clearly I think there's some type of tie there. I know Salon found that one of the top Terra Energy personnel had given $500 to the Boebert campaign. So there's clearly some type of tie there, and there's clearly influence. As to how much and how important it is, I think largely still remains to be seen, which Salon's, of course, investigating.
Right. I had to ask you because I saw those stories and I was like, ooh, I didn't hear this about Lauren Boebert. This is, the idea that she's, something's weird. I know her husband obviously makes a lot of money, but you don't make that much running some bar and grill in Colorado while claiming you only get paid $1. I'm reading in your report. Like, it's one thing.
The business had lost a lot of money.
Right. Like, it's one thing, obviously there are, restaurants out there that are doing well, but if you're claiming you're losing money with your restaurant, it seems weird you would own a cargo plane as well. Very bizarre. So, Zach, before we end, I'm going to end this poll that I put towards the YouTube chat with 125 votes. Mike Lindell, grifter or griftee. 25% say he's a grifter.
Okay.
75% saying he is the grifted. He is the griftee.
I would love to know why the 25% said what they did. I would love to, if someone wants to chat out why, that would be awesome to hear.
Right. By the time they do that, though, but definitely do that. By the time they do that, though, you'll probably be long gone because the feed's a little bit behind. So, Zachary, thank you. So, what am I just saying, Zachary, as if like I'm not going to promote your entire name. Zachary Petrizzo of Salon. Where can people find you?
They can find me on Twitter at ZT Petrizzo. They can find my work at salon.com. And big fan of the show, so thanks for having me on again.
Oh, thank you.
This is awesome. It's been fun. I feel like there's always so much that happens on the right, as you know, that you kind of cover this area too. It seems never ending. So it's always good to be on.
It's like I've been doing this now for over a decade, and it's like, why you can't take off a week? Why would I take off a week? Because, and of course, there are slow weeks sometimes, and slow means not that much happening. Still things happening, but that week you take off, that's never one of those weeks. The week you take off, for example, like I mentioned at the top of the show, the week you take off is the week we end the 20-year war. That's the week that you take off, apparently. I mean, I didn't do it purposefully, which I'll be talking about in the second half of the show a little bit more. We didn't really talk about it here. But Zachary, by the way, what does the T stand for in ZT Petrizzo, your Twitter name?
That stands for Thomas, a middle name.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. It's a weird username, but whatever, it works.
I was gonna guess Zachary Trump Petrizzo.
No. Oh man. No, but yeah, no. This has been a fun time, and thank you again for having me on.
Have a good night, man. Always a pleasure. Looking forward to having you on again soon. And really, thank you for coming on. You really were the perfect guest to wheel me back in on the first show back.
It's a lot to take in, but you took it in all very well. So have a great rest of the show, and I'll be watching.
All right, take care, man. Have a great night. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's now go to the second half of the show. But before we do that, before we go to that second half of the show, we will gotta just fix my where is this? Masks. The edges are masked. Okay, I had to fix the green screen there. Before we go to the second half of the show, patreon.com/Matt Binder. That's gonna be. I'm about to warn you guys. This outro is gonna be very. I'm rusty here. But I should also mention this is my birthday was on Monday. If you weren't on Twitter, Instagram, or my Facebook, you wouldn't know. But it's my birthday week. I turned 35 on Monday. Halfway to 70. Oh boy. I'm getting old. I'm getting old, guys. But this, I guess this would technically, I didn't do a show last week. This is the first show since my birthday. So it's my first show at 35 years old. If I'm rusty, maybe it's not because I took a week off. Maybe it's because I'm an old man and my brain is going. My memory is shot. And I'm drifting to the nursing home and the retirement home soon. I don't know. Folks, patreon.com/Matt Binder to support this show. Got to shout out the patrons who joined since the last show. We actually lost a few. I knew that was going to happen. Just take 1 week off after over a year and a half of shows every week, sometimes 2 shows a week. And people just can't. People gotta say, people gotta leave because I'm not giving them content. I get it. But the people who joined since the last show, where are they? Here we go. James C., Lucas D., Robert G., Andrew C., and Shireen N. Thank you guys so much for supporting the show. I really, really appreciate your financial support. Again, only financially support this show if you could do so financially. I really appreciate though that the people who can, and if you can but haven't yet, what are you waiting for? What better show than my first show at 35? I mean, really, I think now is the time to pull the trigger if you can. If you don't want to sign up for a recurring monthly Patreon subscription, you can go to youtube.com and drop a super chat. It gives me a one-off donation / tip, and you're guaranteed me reading your chat in the second half of the show, which we are going to in just a second. Doomedcast.com for the podcast version of this show. Go to ratethispodcast.com /doomed. That's ratethispodcast.com /doomed to get links to all the places where you could leave podcast reviews. Apple Podcasts, Podchaser, I don't know where else. It's on that site. Please leave a review if you haven't already. It's a big help. Really, it is. You could also support this show by what else can you do? If you haven't already subscribed to the YouTube channel, I don't even know what to tell you at this point. YouTube.com /Matt Binder, Twitch.tv /Matt Binder. Follow me there as well. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Matt Binder. All other social media platforms, just search Matt Binder. I'll pop up if I'm not at Matt Binder on there. I should get on Rumble, shouldn't I? I just uploaded my Rumble segment from the last show today, like as a separate segment, just to get it up there. I should go on Rumble. I know it's I should get on there though. We just got a Ryan H becoming a patron right now, getting in right before I jump to the second half of the show. If you are watching live, you can stick around. If you are a patron, you can stick around. That means if you're watching live and aren't a patron, you could stick around as well for the second half of the show. Because, you're live. It's fun to have you guys interacting, so we'll keep you on. If there's anything else I'm forgetting, I forgot it. Happy birthday to me. Patrons and live stream watchers, I will see you in just a few short seconds as we go to the second half of the show. For everybody else, I will see you all next time on Doomed. All right, we are back. Yes, as Kowalski with a super chat says, "Happy birthday! You can legally run for president." Right. I am now 35. I can run for president now. I am proud to announce right here, right now. That's the big surprise. The Matt Binder campaign for president. 2020, well, now that I can do it, we'll start running now. I'm going to start running right now. I am running on I am younger than Pete Buttigieg ticket. That's my campaign slogan. I am younger than Pete Buttigieg, which means all you libs that love that Pete Buttigieg was so young, hell, I'm even younger. Gotta love me more, right? That's how this works, right? I don't know. Let me read some. So let me, that's what I forgot. Let me jump into the Skype. You can call into the show. I forgot about that. I forgot to mention that. I told you I'd be rusty. 1 week. That's all I took. 1 week. And the thing is, I have done, something came up and I have to skip a week. And I load it up with 2 episodes the following week, or instead of having a Thursday show, I had to push it to a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then it ends up but I'm still online then. I'm still working. I'm always paying attention to the news, so I don't feel off. I feel like completely out of it. And I'm also out of it because, like I mentioned to you guys, I'm gonna, you might remember earlier this month I had mentioned that my laptop, my MacBook, died, and I went to get it fixed, and unfortunately, the computer's fixed, but my hard drive apparently is kaput. And always keep backups. I do usually do that, but of course, the worst possible time when you forget, and I have been doing it for months on that laptop, even though I back up everything else. Like I usually move things to my external hard drives, and then I double up on that. So I take one external hard drive and back that up to another external hard drive. So two external hard drives have the same thing on it. But because my stupid system confused myself as to what was backed up, I neglected to back up what was actually sitting on the computer still. So unfortunately, it looks like I lost a few things. I don't know exactly what in totality, honestly, but it's really, as someone who is a little bit about me, if you don't already know, I'm a bit of a hoarder, especially digital hoarding. And so that computer was full of stuff that I might not have backed up. Luckily, I don't think too many personal stuff in terms of like the most important to me, obviously, it's like photos of family and stuff. That's on hard drives and backed up multiple times and on Google Photos. I did lose probably a few pictures that I had downloaded over the years and neglected to put in a folder. And maybe some recorded calls with the grandparents and the kids. That's really bothering me. But, nothing too important, nothing detrimental. But my hoarding combined with my obsessive compulsiveness has caused me to, for the past month, just focus on what an a-hole I am for not backing that shit up. But you live and you learn, and you have to always back up your shit, folks. Learn that lesson right now from me. Matt has so many crypto wallets strewn about. I will say this. I did actually have a couple of bucks in a wallet. Remember I told you I bought I bought a bunch of crypto, not a bunch as in a lot of crypto, but bought a little bit of crypto from a few different currencies basically to try shit out when I was doing all that cryptocurrency reporting over the past couple of months. I did actually realize that I had all the keys but for one wallet actually on my phone, and the one wallet's keys were lost to that hard drive, but I was still logged in on my phone, so I quickly transferred the money I had on there to Coinbase, and literally the next day I was logged out. I got logged out of it, and I was like, shit, if I didn't do that then, it wouldn't have been a big loss, but it would have been just another thing on top of it. Yeah. Oh, people are making me feel better by talking about all the shit they lost. Chris says, Matt, if it doesn't exist on 3 different drives, it doesn't exist, fam. Yes, I know. The thing is, though, when you have so much shit, and I take a lot of photos of the kids, it's like the photos are now on 3 places. I gotta tell you, Google Photos closing their freebie tier was actually a godsend, to be quite honest. Because in a rush to make sure I got everything in, because if you uploaded everything before they closed the free tier, they still kept it for free. It was only new stuff that would be uploaded after the free tier closed would it count towards your data. And so I uploaded all the photos I could find across all my hard drives. And so I would say like 99% of photos and videos are on Google Photos, and all the ones that I've taken myself with my iPhone over the years are on 2 different physical drives at the least. They might even be on 3 physical drives, along with being on Google Photos now. But there might be some things that were sent to me that I downloaded, or again, I told you, like videos that recorded through Skype or FaceTime with like the grandparents and the kids, because that was just recorded via like QuickTime. I lost like a few of those, which sucks, but not the you could do more of those, and it's not like I lost photos of us being somewhere that memory there, like see, I don't know if you know this about me. This is like Matt Binder telling you his personal life hour now. I used to be, back in the day, I didn't give a shit about anything. I probably lost tons of shit back when I was a teen, a rowdy, rebellious teen online. Didn't care to back stuff up. If a hard drive died, I moved to the next computer. But see, something happened over the years as I grew up and I guess as you get older, I would say this started in like my early to mid 20s. I started to become very sentimental about things. And I started to take a lot of photos to my iPhone. I never took photos. I guess just having an iPhone, because it was like 2008 I got my first iPhone, or 2009. Just having it in your pocket, like I didn't carry on a camera then, but having it in your pocket, I was like, oh, I'll take a photo. And then I became very sentimental about things. I think it started when like my grandma passed away in 2012, and I was just like, damn, I really should have had more photos. And so I just started taking photos of everything, and it just got, I would say, maybe out of hand, where I take way too many photos now. And so but I can't stop, especially when you got kids, man. And so like everything becomes sentimental to me in terms of all the photos I take and the videos I take. And then so when something like that happens, like I'm not like I'm like, I've been functioning obviously, but like for the past month in the back of my head I've been like, fucking idiot. Still, all I would have taken was a couple of hours to just back that shit up. But it wasn't even like, it was seriously something I didn't even, like, it's not even like, oh, I forgot to do it because it was just like out of sight, out of mind. I was doing the backups of the stuff I was moving to the hard drives, and it didn't even occur to me that I wasn't backing up the computer. Fucking idiot, I know. But now I got a time machine set up on this current Mac Mini I'm using for streaming. And when I set up the MacBook again, that'll get a time machine set up as well. And hopefully lesson learned. Probably not. It'll happen again, I'm sure. Time to move on. Let's now go to the phones. Someone tried to call in just now. Oh, let me... This is A-Name says, I guess this is growing up. Matt Binder 182. Right. Man, so I swear, man, I hit a certain age and all of a sudden I became like totally different outlook on like saving shit. Hey, what's your name? Where are you calling from? You are on the air.
From Nebraska, aka Comrade Kowalski, calling proletariat, or no, you're bourgeois Bender, I believe, according to the debater, right?
Bourgeois Bender?
Yeah, because remember, you don't speak for the working class.
Oh, right.
Some other pundits do.
Oh, right. You're talking about the convo couch. Here's the thing: the convo couch people didn't say this to me, but there a lot of those Tulsi Gabbard leftists commented. One specifically commented on their version of the debate, saying that they wouldn't expect me to understand as a trust fund kid from New York City. And I got to tell you, man, I wish that was true. I mean, I wish that was true, but I'm sadly not a trust fund kid. Don't got any money, don't got any savings, literally live paycheck to paycheck. I got 2 kids, man, and I can tell you, money is tight.
Well, dang, I might be more bourgeois than you because I technically did have a trust fund.
Really? Oh, bourgeois Kowalski.
Yes, although mine was because when I was 3, the neighbor's dog ripped my face open, and I couldn't touch it until I turned 19, and it all went towards school. So, yeah.
I hear that, man. I mean, I was like one of those. I was in one of those situations where it's like, what do you even say to people who like just assume you're rich for really no reason? I don't even know where they get that from. The usual thing they say is, "Oh, we don't expect you to understand either, because you have health care." First of all, that doesn't make any sense because the whole idea is that even people with health care are undercovered, right? Like that's the whole thing. Medicare for like the majority of people actually do have health care. Like when you look at how many people don't have health care in this country, those people are actually, it's in the millions, obviously, but those people are actually in the minority. So to pretend that like that's who Medicare for all would just be for, no, the idea is the people who have health care even are underinsured because when push comes to shove and they actually end up getting really sick, their insurance company will claim, oh, sorry, that's not covered. And then they have to still end up using GoFundMe or whatever to raise funds. So that doesn't even make any sense when they argue that shit.
Yeah, I'm also really perplexed as to their tactics on that. One that I've actually been able to get some of my more right-leaning friends on board with the Medicare for All thing is that it actually would shrink the bureaucratic nature of healthcare because you're getting rid of the private bureaucracy. Essentially, Medicare already exists, so the government agency already exists, so you're literally just cutting out the private sector, which wastes about like 20 to 25% of all the funds that go into the healthcare system.
Right. Right.
So, I mean, like, yeah, in that regards. But hey, didn't have too much to say other than that joke and to wish you a happy birth week.
Oh, well, thank you, Kowalski.
Yes, I really hope you're enjoying it. And, you know, when you make that run for president, it's going to be awesome. You'll finally be able to tell us about the aliens. That'll be great.
That'll be one of the first things I do, I promise. But I got to actually say, for my week off, I didn't go anywhere crazy or anything. We just went like, about 2 hours upstate. But obviously, it was a very, at least for compared to where I currently live in Queens, very rural area. And I gotta say, man, I definitely see the appeal to living in seclusion. It was a breath of fresh air to just step away and just take in the outdoors. I see why. I mean, hell, maybe I'm gonna end up moving to Nebraska and just becoming a farmer, Kowalski. I don't know, man.
Well, be careful which rural areas you move to, because there's basically two types. There's the farm rural area, which is fine, and then there's ranch country. Ranchers are insane. They're the ones that are out there trying to be like, I'm not part of your civilization, as they're drinking processed cola or something. They're just absolutely batshit crazy. Farm country is fine because we understand we're part of a civilization, not, free-ranging mavericks.
Right. I mean, I would, where we went, it was like Hudson Valley in New York, and the house we stayed at had like a creek in the back, and you could like go in there was like a boat there. You could go in like a canoe, or a paddle boat, and it was just like, what is this? It's like, and the thing is too, I keep saying like it's super rural. And when I tell you this, you're probably gonna be like, that's not at all rural. It was like in this like maybe like 3 or 4 other houses around. But like if you drove maybe like 20 minutes out, you could find like a Walmart or a Target and like fast food. So you weren't completely, I'm not saying those places are good. I'm just using it as an example of like, you weren't completely like devoid from humanity, but like, it was way more rural than where I currently live. So like, it was just like, a breath of fresh air. I don't know how far the furthest, like, where's like society, the closest, like, I don't know, like store from you?
The closest place to buy food from me is at a country club that's like 3.5 miles away. I'm not a member of, but my brother is. The next would be a gas station, and then the closest grocery store would be a Walmart about 10 miles away.
All right, so that's not
So,
so.
no, I'm actually pretty lucky. I only live like 2 miles outside of the city, and our city has like 55,000. It's going to be a real fun week. State fair is going on. So, deep fried Delta variant on a stick. And then in 2 weeks, we have the largest working farm show in the country, which is going to bring in more people who think COVID is a leftist conspiracy, but at the same time, so dangerous. We got to shut the borders down to stop its spread.
Right. All right, Kowalski. Thank you so much for the call. I mean, I'm actually gonna get you. I'm glad you brought up that because there was something I saw that I wanted to bring up. So let me get to that now. Thanks for the call, Kowalski.
All right. Happy birthday. Bye.
Thank you, buddy. Grim says Hudson Valley isn't upstate. Well, it's upstate to me. Wait, where is this? I will say this. It was Bob Carmody says I worked and lived in Hudson in Poughkeepsie, 93 to 97. Yeah, it was around Poughkeepsie where I was, a little bit further up. But I will say, like, just for the hell of it, I looked up, and I wanted to bring this up actually too, because this is one discourse I missed. I looked up the house prices in the area. Like, man, you only live about like an hour and a half, 2 hour drive away from New York City, but like the houses with like 3-4 bedrooms are like $200,000 to $300,000. Like, I saw that and I was like, man, like maybe I should look into leaving New York City. Just like, I don't think I could ever leave New York. I need to be nearby. But like, shit, man, maybe I should look into it because that's crazy, man. That's crazy. And I mentioned the discourse because, what was it, last week? What was the big story with Hassan Piker, right? Where he bought like $1 million home in LA or some shit. Man, like I could, first of all, I could not buy $1 million home. Second of all, and I'm not gonna, in terms of the discourse, you want my opinion on it? The housing prices are a lot of money in LA. If you're gonna buy in LA, I mean, that sounds like how much it would be. I don't have that money, so I could not buy that. Hassan is a very successful streamer. He does have that money, and he could buy that. He also does a lot of good work when it comes to raising money for different organizations. So it's not like he doesn't put his money where his mouth is. I don't know what to say about it. It's like, it is what it is. Who cares? The guy bought a home. Good for him. If that's what you're focused on, that one guy who bought a home, probably not the best priorities. I will say Hassan needs to have me on his show. That is indeed what he needs to do. And that's all there is to be. That's all there is to say. I should say. Wait, he bought a $3 million home. Whoa, that changes things. Wait, it was a $3 million home. Jeez. Rad Dad says $2.1 million house. Wait, well, I don't even know. I don't know. I'm not getting involved now. I don't know. It's a lot of money though. But I don't think it matters. But shit, man, like with how much I make, I don't know. I would not even, that's why Hudson Valley was looking nice, cuz maybe with a big old fat 30-year mortgage I could get something on the low end there. Yeah, it's like, man, but really, who cares? Who cares? It doesn't matter. What a dumb discourse. And I brought up, I just want to say, because I'm aware that I brought up Jimmy Dore's $1 Million Home in my debate with the Convo Couch people. But it was within the context of them calling him like the face of the working class. I would argue that Hassan Piker would not put himself forward as the face of the working class, as a very successful live streamer who bought a multi-million-dollar home doing said live streams. Listen, I'm not saying you're not, or you obviously I do live streams and I would consider myself to be in the working class, but I also have perspective and realize that what I do for a living, which is both this show, which is not really, this is more like a side project. You can help make it a living by being a patrons. But this is a side project. My full-time gig as a reporter. Listen, I'm in a union. I'm working class when it comes to how much I make and the type of work I do. My income level, but I mean, it's not the most labor-intensive job. This is not like I'm not like a service worker. I'm not like outdoors tending the fields or anything like that. I'm not, there's levels, I would say we are all broadly in the working class, but I would never put someone forward in my position, as the face of the working class, because there are people who have it much harder, to be quite frank, in terms of the type of work they do. So I mean, come on, face of the working class. Oh right, what Kowalski brought up that I wanted to bring up here. All right, so let me open this up 1 second. Where is this? Okay. Right. Okay, here it is. Now, I'm going to do a show that gets more in depth with where this whole ivermectin craze has come from. And I want to be, this should not surprise anyone who knows me and knows this show, but for the sake of not letting misinformation get out there, and also sticking within YouTube's guidelines, I want to make it clear that I think this whole thing around ivermectin being some sort of miracle cure for COVID is a scam. It is not true. It is unproven. There was a study out there that all these ivermectin proponents were heralding that turned out to be built upon faulty data. We'll get, again, like I said, I'm going to get more in depth with this with a guest who is an expert on the topic and who's been reporting on this. But I know from my own research and work into this topic that there is little proof data-wise that shows that ivermectin can treat COVID at all. And when I mean little proof, I mean there's no proof. Yes, it's being used in some third world countries, in some developing nations where they didn't have the vaccine and still don't have the vaccine, and people were dying of COVID and they need to try out whatever they could because they had little available to them. And so I understand in those situations trying out whatever, and apparently in some cases they're saying the ivermectin helped. Again, that's unproven. Who knows what else was going on, what other medicines they gave these people. But I get what's going on outside the United States, and I can't speak to that. Those doctors and those patients are really, without the vaccine and without other forms of basically treatment, I would never. I mean, let them do it, whatever they think they need to do. But here, the idea that you would take these experimental drugs is just absurd. It's absurd. And it started with hydroxychloroquine, and you had a bunch of quacks pushing that. Trump was a big proponent of that, and his sperm doctor, his demon sperm doctor, that's a whole different, sounds like it's going a whole different way, but his demon sperm doctor, you'd all remember, who claimed that apparently ovarian cysts were the results of having sex with demons. Basically, we're pushing these ridiculous experimental drugs, and hydroxychloroquine ended up not being the miracle cure for COVID. And so they jumped to the next thing. You got the IDW, the intellectual dark web, like the Weinsteins pushing this shit. And basically, ivermectin is apparently a treatment for heartworms, for dogs, and for horses, and other parasitic issues like that. And apparently, there is a version for humans who are also dealing with those same types of parasites. But what's going on is that doctors in this country are not prescribing their patients with ivermectin because most doctors, aside from those quacks, are realizing that this is ridiculous. Why am I going to give ivermectin to my patients for COVID? And when these patients then go to the quacks, they're realizing these quacks are charging us outrageous sums of money for this. Why should I buy it from them when I can just go to my local animal shop or wherever they're selling this and buy the horse dewormer ivermectin? It is unbelievable that people are taking this medication for horses and dogs and other animals, for dewormers, for parasites. It's just, it's unbelievable. And there are multiple stories coming out filled with forums and Facebook groups where they're basically saying, holy shit, I just took all this, the horse goo, which is how ivermectin comes for horses, like the form of like a jelly. If you've never had a pet that takes like vitamins, you might know what this looks like. Obviously, it's a little bit different for horses, but I remember I had a ferret, and ferrets have this ferret vitamin it's called like ferret vitamin or something like that, and it was like this healthy type of goo in a tube that you'd push out, and they'd go nuts over this shit. It was medicine for them, though. It was good for them. The same form seems to come for these the horse version of ivermectin, but obviously their goo looks so much thicker, and according to these people taking this shit, it's disgusting. It tastes disgusting. But they're taking the wrong dosage. It's the version for horses, and they're complaining how they're sick, they're not feeling good. Poison control across the country are saying how they're receiving an absurd amount of calls from people who are saying they were poisoned by taking too much ivermectin because they took the dosage for horses and not the people version. It's just getting so out of control. And it's all because these conspiracy theorists and these anti-vaxxers are refusing to take the vaccine. So they're going ahead and they're going for all these alternative medicines, which they claim is healthier, even though these alternative medicines are experimental. And that's their reason for not trusting the vaccines, because the vaccines came out too fast. So they think they're experimental. And again, they're thanking Trump, the guy they look up to, for pushing out these vaccines super fast, because he did so thanks to his Operation Warp Speed, and they herald him for this. Oh, thanks to Trump, we have the vaccine so fast. But at the same time, they won't take the vaccines because they came out so fast. It's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous. But here's something, and you might have heard other people mention this. But here's something I haven't seen really mentioned. And a lot of these people, a lot of these same anti-vaxxer conspiracy theorists are the same ones who go bonkers whenever someone talks about, the new normal or a chance for people, for society to reset. You looking at the pandemic in the most optimistic terms possible, we are learning some things from the way life changed, everyday daily living changed due to the COVID-19 pandemic, that, hey, made people realize, hell, maybe we weren't doing things in the most greatest way before the pandemic. For example, work from home seems to have been a real game changer for people in certain industries. And there are a number of other things. People, people wearing masks and realizing, holy shit, I didn't get sick during the winter at all. I didn't get the flu or the cold. Maybe masks are a great thing to do, and a great thing to wear. But the anti-vaxxers and the anti-maskers and the conspiracy theorists go crazy whenever someone talks about this new normal, this new way of doing things. They just want to get back to the way life was before the pandemic. Everything was perfect when I was able to work my 12-hour shift and shop at Walmart and just get enough to afford the bare necessities, living paycheck to paycheck, and giving the rest of my money to my landlord. I love that way of living, but that's the way of living they want to get back to, apparently. They don't want anything to change. But here's the thing. And here is a tweet from Ben Collins of NBC News, which I just thought was a really funny example. But there's hundreds and hundreds of posts like this online of what they're doing, of what these conspiracy theorists are doing to prepare themselves to not get COVID because they don't want to take the vaccine. This is in the screenshot from Ben Collins. Talking about taking ivermectin. Can I squeeze the paste into my anus instead of mouth? It tastes horrible, said one person. Another person says, fillable gel caps are cheap and easy to use, meaning they're probably doing that. You'll see these over and over, and it's constant. And it's not just the weird things they're doing, like spraying horse dewormer up their butthole. It's the regimen. You'll see it all the time. The regimen. The daily dosages they're taking. The regular medications. They're still taking hydroxychloroquine. They're taking all these their alternative medicines. They're shooting the ivermectin up their butt. This is what they're doing, while also claiming they want to just get back to their normal way of life before the pandemic. Listen, I got to tell you guys, I don't know about you guys, but when it comes to life-changing stuff that this pandemic put me through, me personally, my work told me to start working from home. It's a big difference. I'm not commuting anymore. Sure. But I'm not taking, I haven't, since the pandemic started in March 2020, I have not taken any extra medications, haven't changed my daily lifestyle in terms of what I consume all that much. Probably ate more home food, didn't eat out as much in those earlier lockdown days because wasn't going out. Sure, of course. But, I wasn't taking any experimental alternative medicines. I would say in terms of my personal health, about what I'm eating, what I'm injecting to my body, it's aside from the vaccine I took a few months ago, pretty much the same as it was before the pandemic. On the other hand, look at these people who are claiming they do not want anything to change. No, they're scared, fear-mongering about the Great Reset. Just want to get to life before the pandemic once again. And they refuse to take the vaccines. But what are they doing? They are every day new lifestyle of taking a brand new set of medications, injecting themselves with who knows what every day, every week, brand new shit. It's just amazing. It's just like the hypocrisy. They don't even realize because they don't put two and two together. I am living more like how they're claiming they want to live pre-pandemic days because I just got the vaccine, man. I just got the vaccine. I just got vaccinated. It's just incredible. Just incredible. If you get vaccinated, you're like pretty close to living life before the pandemic. Obviously, with the Delta variant, things are changing a little bit. If you weren't wearing a mask indoors before, during that short period of time, after you got vaccinated and before the Delta variant went rampant, you may gotta wear it indoors once again. That's it though, really. Otherwise, you're going out again probably, unless, you're especially immunocompromised and you're taking extra precautions. But I would say the majority of people, they got vaxxed. They're going out with a mask just in case. And they're going on their walks, their runs, playing their outdoor sports. Some people have been going to outdoor concerts and shows. They're eating indoors once again at restaurants that are taking precautions. They're living, visiting family members again who are also vaccinated. It's just like complete, like, we're living life pretty close to normal, as in life before COVID. Yes, it's never going to be back to normal, as if COVID-19 never happened, but we're pretty close. Pretty close. As Vinny Holiday in the super chat, the YouTube chat points out, all the supplements they push aren't even FDA approved, right? Which is one of their main reasons for not wanting to take the vaccines, because they weren't FDA approved. But just this past Monday, happy birthday to me, just how it happened that it happened on my birthday, the FDA approved the Pfizer vaccine. Have they rushed out to get it? No, of course not, because that was always just an excuse. Always just an excuse. Always just an excuse. They were never going to actually change their ways. Let's go back to let's go to the calls if you'd like. If you'd like to call in, I should say. While I wait for those callers to call back in, I'll read some super chats. Matthew, you with a super chat. I have a Lindell as grifted theory. If you want to hear it, it's pretty sad if true, honestly. I would like to hear your theory, Matthew. You were one of the first super chatters. I don't know if you're still in the chat. I'm sorry I didn't see it earlier, but I would like to hear it for sure. Do call. Let me know in the chat or call in. We got a listener on the phone. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, what's up, Matt? It's welcome back.
Oh, Dave from Jamaica. Thank you so much for calling in. Second time I'm talking to you today. Actually, earlier today you called in. You talked, and great points. And I was on the majority report earlier, I should say, and you called in. And I was on with.
I forgot to wish you a happy birthday, but then again, I was messing up completely. I messed up Brendan's name. Sorry, Brand.
No, that's fine. Listen, Brandon and Emma pretty much took over that entire call. I was like completely thrown off because I was actually thought we were ending the show because of the Peacock stuff, and all of a sudden, at the time, like the last minute when we needed to be off, they're like, "Let's take another call." So I was completely thrown off. I don't even think I even spoke too much during your call, if at all. So I'm glad.
Yeah, you were unusually silent.
Right. So I'm very glad you are calling in now.
I enjoyed Kowalski's call too. Very informative.
But, yeah.
I would say, as a person who lived in the country most of my life. Let me first start with the birthday stuff. You are officially old now, but since you don't have any gray hairs, you're not really. You're like the new 35. Look like 20 something.
I've seen a gray hair or two actually. It's coming.
You have to look for it.
Right.
but welcome to the olds. I'm probably a little older than you, but yeah, welcome to the club. You're officially old. But what was I saying though? Yeah, a lot. When it comes, I've lived in the country most of my life, and like when I went to New York and cities in general, I don't know. if you ask me, I think I prefer city life. Not having to drive. You guys really underestimate how stress for not driving around all the time is reducing a lot of stress.
I gotta tell you, the commute is one thing I haven't looked forward to. But I mean, I had to commute. I commute here though in Queens to Manhattan back when I was commuting, and like people don't understand. Like Queens is, if you're commuting to a borough outside of Queens, it takes a while. I'm like in outer Queens, like outer Queens, and it's like it's like an hour and a half each way sometimes. That if you're lucky, sometimes even it could be more. So it's like to me the bigger thing was the room. As someone who lived in the city my entire life, and always has a confined space, it really is a breath of fresh air to like have extra rooms and like step outside into a backyard. A backyard, man. That's crazy.
I think we're hitting the nail on the head now. I think it doesn't really matter so much if it's city or in the country. I think it's more about the resources. Because like if you lived in the city and you had a lot of space in your apartment,
right,
it would be likewise. If I lived in the country and you have a car that you can reliably go, then it's the life, right?
If I lived in a penthouse in Manhattan, I'm sure I'd be telling you guys, "Well, I'm good here. Don't worry about me. I'm a city boy for life. Don't worry about me." Yes. But like you don't, and it's crazy that like I can't afford anything in New York City.
That's the key problem.
Anything. Right. Yet just a few hours upstate in a more rural area. And it's not only can I suddenly, when I say afford, I mean be able to take out a mortgage. Obviously, I don't want to give people the impression that I got a couple $100K ready to plop down on a house. Yeah. But it's like, it's actually like within reach. Like it would be doable, like maybe I have to, get a second job or something, but it would be doable. But not only doable, I could get something that would be bigger than like the bare minimum price in Manhattan, not in Manhattan, even in New York City. I mean, even like the outer boroughs. It's like insane. Like something is off here. Like it shouldn't be like that. Like obviously, yes, the city would obviously cost more. But there's no middle ground, It's
right
in Queens. Like you look at housing in Queens. You want to buy a house in Queens, like a small 2-bedroom house in Queens is like minimum like $1 million. There's nothing in Queens. Maybe in some really really outer areas that are like borderline Long Island, like an old. Maybe you could get like find like $500,000 or something like that. But we're talking like you might as well not be living in New York City because you're in a public transportation desert. You're not anywhere that would be considered the city in terms of like the pluses of living in a city.
Right.
You could just literally get much more just moving upstate.
And I guess in the way, I know you want to dodge the house and hobby stuff, right? But I won't lie to you. As trivial as it sounds, hearing quote unquote leftists complain about Hassan buying a house really bothered me, in the sense that for leftists who understand things are systemic, right? And no just consumption under capitalism and all, to harp on that stuff, and it's so transparent. The real reason why they're upset is like they don't like Hassan for something different, completely different, but they're using this weirdo argument. While if we were to criticize a Jimmy Jor, sorry, it is because of the blatant issue, like, oh, he's doing these things and then claiming the mantle, right? But it's kind of so it frustrates me in that sense, because take Hassan out of it. If you're going to sell, being a leftist is basically being a monk. I hate to break it to you, you're not going to have very many leftists because there's a wait. I don't want to sign up for that.
For me, the annoying thing is it took away from being able to hate on Hassan for the more legit reason, which is pure jealousy. I mean,
Right.
I think it's way more legit to be like, what the fuck, man? This live streamer is making millions of dollars a year than to be like, you're not being a good leftist. You know what I mean?
Right. At least be honest with it, right? Right.
Right.
So it and it's so transparent what the real reasons are. And think about it like this. If you are on the same side of an argument as Tim Pool, that should be a moment of reflection.
Right. Right. That's a good point. Listen,
like,
it's weird to me because, like, listen, if I had $1 million, jeez, I will never have $1 million. But if I had $1 million, I would obviously, I think the first thing I would do if I had money like that would be buy a home. I mean, the difference is for me is that I would never.
But here's the thing: he couldn't win. Here's the thing: let's say he had the money and he didn't buy the home. Then people would say, "Why are you supporting landlords? That's not
right." Listen, it would honestly, like, if this is the thing, like, if you could buy a house, do you know like how much that adds to your pocket? Like, if you could just flat out buy it, like, you could literally probably like leave your job because that's like the big expense. Like, that's your big monthly expense. Like, you could like totally live completely differently if you own a home outright, because there goes the rent. Like, the amount of money you pay in taxes every year, that's like you could do a couple of freelance jobs every year and make up for that. You know what I mean? Like, it is.
I think there was a meme posted by a person we don't like, but I'm not going to mention their name, right? Who had a picture of Morpheus and what's the agent name? Agent Smith.
Right.
And the meme is basically, if you're fighting against the Matrix, why are you using the Matrix? And then in the meme itself, it's a self-own, because if anybody watches the movie would know that how would you be able to defeat the Matrix without actually using the Matrix? You know what I mean? But the point is, I think people need to kind of separate their personal issues away from whatever personality. If you unless they truly believe if you're a socialist you can't have a house,
right? See, I mean, what I would have done with that money, obviously, is I would have bought a complex, and then I would have rented out all the different places, and
there you go,
passive income, baby. That's the dream right there, right? I mean, I wanted to see how far I could take it before. I'm waiting for the stream to catch up with everybody else, so the comments start coming into YouTube going, "What the fuck is Matt talking about? That's some landlord shit." That to me would be like that. I could never do that. Like, that's the thing, obviously, and that is not what he's doing. Like, that's the thing you could be mad about, you know, if he was doing that shit.
But you see so. Well, all right, I'll move off of that one. I guess I'm just saying, I think, especially with the lockdowns and whatnot, I think a lot of people have begun to legitimately lose their minds.
People are, yeah.
Because, like, let's look on this now. Like, you're talking about, because we're having various COVID issues all over the world with hesitancies or whatnot. I'm beginning to think, especially in the U.S., where I can tell you from observing it, and as you said, you have people putting horse dewormer up their butts and whatnot, to kind of to own the libs, and I think that is the core of it. It's to own whoever they don't like. Right. That's the motivated thing. They don't care about FDA approved. It's all about screw this person I don't like. Because I've seen it with some of my right-wing friends who I haven't spoken to him for a while now, right? I think as soon as the lockdown happened, they had time to self-reflect, and they just got crazier. I think that's literally what happened. Like, I had a friend, and the reason I don't talk to them anymore is because it's become painful, because they become like conspiracy nuts, right?
Right.
Before the pandemic, he never used to talk about trans issues. And now everything he posts is about, every other thing is about how the transgenders are taking over. I'm like, dude, you live in Jamaica. Come on, we're super conservative down here. Most trans people are in fear of their lives. They're not coming out of the woodwork. So it's kind of, I really do think the lockdowns are driving people insane.
I think that's definitely part of it.
But it's going to get worse because of their resistance to it, right? And the Delta variants. So I wouldn't be surprised if schools get shut down again.
Oh, I just saw that the Supreme Court just lifted, just breaking right now. The Supreme Court just lifted the federal eviction moratorium, siding with a group of landlords who argue that the CDC lacked the authority to bar evictions during the pandemic. I mean, here we go. This is
yikes.
This is
Jeez.
Yeah. This is where this is where we should be paying attention. Obviously, a week after people making an issue about Hassan buying a house.
Right. But that's terrifying because I don't even know what's going to happen because people are still having issues finding work, right? Much less. So now, if it's going, I don't know what's going to happen with that type of stuff because, I mean, what do you do in that scenario where you're forcing people out homes and they have, boy, sorry.
Apparently, Congress must specifically authorize it.
Oh, so that's their way of so that's how the court's going to kind of please both sides type of thing where
I guess, yeah.
You pass the buck on to them. Well, yeah, but so, all right. So sorry, I'm kind of rambling. Maybe hogging up too much time. So
no, I mean, we talked about last week's discourse. What's another discourse I missed last week? Oh, what's your take on Nathan Robinson and current affairs?
Oh, well, I heard his party account is Brendan likes the party account. It's top notch.
Oh, right, it's pretty good, right? I've seen that one. I was behind on that.
If you want some hypocrisy, go there. That's a clear.
Right. Oh, here's the weirdest thing about that, and not much to talk about here, obviously, because there's no broader issue. But here's the weirdest thing about that one. Regardless of what you think about him and his employees and what the dispute about current affairs is, if he just didn't fire them, this wouldn't be an issue. Like, that's the part that I don't get. Why did he need to? Why did he think it was a good idea to fire them? Like, that's where he's completely wrong, and he fucks up, and he looks horrible no matter what ends up happening. Listen, I get the idea that he ended up looking at this thing like it was his baby. I thought it was a little bit weird for so many leftists who always herald, artistry and, the rights of an artist, and the ownership of an artist's work. That's usually an ideal on our side where, copyright laws from big corporations owning people's shit. That's, we're not into that. So it was weird to see people throw off his, his concerns and his worries aside there. But on the other hand, at the same time, obviously, I would also argue that it sort of leaves that realm when he hires people who are dependent on him for a living, and then he tells them, we're gonna, have the company set up in this certain way, and leads them on. So I get their side too. However, though, it seems like even with his regret in the end to create like a co-op situation, I feel like if he could have worked it out with these people, they seem to have really respected him. They called him his friend. They didn't look at him as a boss. I feel like if he just said to them in a meeting, listen, this is my concerns. I feel like they could have come up with something, even if they just reverted and ended up doing like a union or something. Like
there's an old saying that goes, power doesn't corrupt, power reveals. I think that's the case where it revealed that I'm pretty sure he paid them well and everything, right? But as you said, when it came to the idea of sharing power,
like that idea that he would just fire them.
Right, he couldn't do it. That's the thing. He couldn't do that. The bit where it comes when it comes to sharing power for some personalities, it's kind of
Like I also like listen. I really
hard.
do like. I don't think people were like I think people were because it's easy to drag him. Obviously, he's been on.
I'm not even dragging it. I'm just looking on it like from
Right.
a broader picture. Like as I said, for some people, when it comes to sharing power, they can't do it.
I sort of like I listen. I'm not saying he was, but at the same time, like, listen, he put a lot of money. It's clearly he put his money into this. It was a labor of love project for a long time. He put way more on the line to get it to where it was than anybody else. So I get his hesitations, obviously. But again, all that aside, he just what a dumb move, like to just fire everybody. Like he just like waited like
that was the nuclear option.
Like
right?
that is the moment where he becomes the asshole like business owner, right? There's
Right.
no coming back from doing that. Like it's so weird.
Well, here's the thing: if that was his goal, why make it get so big then? If he doesn't want to share control, if he knows that with himself, right?
Right. I mean, he could have obviously run the thing and just hired freelancers to write pizzas every now and then. Why would you? Right. Why would you hire full-time employees then? Like once people are dependent on you for their living, your labor.
You kind of cross the Rubicon, right?
Yeah, your labor of love art project is no longer that. Like that's what I'm saying. Like it clearly started that way. And he was still in that mindset. And if it was still that, then I totally get that. It's your painting, it's your whatever, your drawing, your whatever.
I guess this is where philosophical, where one's philosophy comes very important. Because as I say, I'm not dragging Nathan, but it kind of does fit with how he kind of views the world. So maybe that's why when he didn't, as you said, he didn't see it as he still saw it as his thing, and it wasn't, as you said, since it crossed that. Man, my words are failing me. But since it crossed that level where as you said, people are dependent on him. It's no longer your baby.
Right. And I still think he could have had those reservations, and from what it sounds like, he definitely. Could have gotten around it being a co-op, and he probably could have convinced them to.
As you said, it's a nuclear option. He could have. Yeah, you're
right. So bizarre. Like the way they, like even that letter they put out was so like, they felt like bad they had to do it. It's like ridiculous. But anyway, I guess that's enough with on that topic. Seems like just something I didn't get a chance to.
No. I think I look on it more like a thing for people to think about philosophically as well. Like if you're in a position to start something that becomes like that, kind of have your head straight on where you're going. Like if it crosses that, you must be kind of prepared to say, yeah, this is going to become this now.
Right.
So you don't run into those things, those type of problems.
All right.
But I think I chatted enough.
Well, always a pleasure when you call, Dave. So always call in. Have a great night.
I remember 35 is the new 25, man.
I'll take it. As long as I don't feel it anymore. There was a time. It's weird. Sorry to keep you on the phone, but it's weird because like I remember all throughout my 20s, I was like I don't feel different. And then I hit 30, still didn't feel different. 31, it was like, what's going on? I still feel just as, and then just out of the blue, I don't know if it was like 31 and a half, 32, 33, somewhere around like that. All of a sudden, I'm like, whoa, I don't feel like as agile. I'm getting out of breath more with like, I have to like work out a little bit more, work a little bit harder to do things that just came so easy. I was someone who like was like my body type was like I had a natural, and people are gonna think I'm boasting. I no boast at all. I did zero work to get this. Up until like I was 30 years old, I had like a natural six pack. Just my body type. That's just how I was.
You lucky bastard.
But no, it's gone now. That's past. But
here's the thing I think a lot of it is mental. Yes, there is some changes, but I think if you just have to work out a little harder and you'll be good.
Yeah.
Because like once you hit, things start declining when you stop working out for a long time. That's when you don't work out, then things start to fall off a cliff, and it gets very hard.
See, that's where this working at home might hurt me, because I'm someone who I didn't take, like, unless, like, obviously I took a subway from Queens to Manhattan. Otherwise it would take like 10 hours to walk. But whenever I could, if I could skip that extra, like, subway, like the transfer, or skip the bus transfer, I'd be someone who would walk the 10 to 15 blocks to get to work. And I walked a lot. I walked a lot every day.
That's also helping you. But diet helps a lot with it too. Yeah. I think I'm not a good example, because I think when the pandemic started, I switched to vegan, right? And I was working out, and I did notice a change, as in I could add longer stamina and everything like that. But when you skip the working out for a long time, then you start packing the pounds, no matter what diet.
Right.
So, as I said, don't let the age number kind of trick you. You just got to get out there. Even if you have to walk, you have to kind of convince yourself to do a little bit of walking.
I'll do my best
and just add a bit, and then you'll be fine. Don't worry, you've not hit geriatric zone yet.
Have a great night, Dave. Appreciate it.
You, Matt. No problem.
All right, folks. I'm going to read a few super chats, and then that'll be the show. Oh, wait. Someone wanted to call in. Omega with a super chat. What's the number to call in? Open up Skype and search Doomed Live. If you call in when I'm done with these super chats, by the time I'm done with these super chats, I'll take your call. Samantha, hard to own libs on Parler when no libs are there. Right, that's one of the reasons why they're not on Parler for long. Midnight Pizza Man with a super chat. Have an ice cream bar on me, old man Matt. Penelope with a super chat. Happy birthday, thank you. Paradise with a super chat. It's gonna be okay, Matt. We still heart you. Oh, I think I was talking about when I was upset about my computer. Happy birthday. Thanks for being born. Thank you, Paradise. Vinny, super chat. My money is on Brett Weinstein being the primary ivermectin pusher. We'll talk about that more. Antonio says, if ivermectin doesn't work, how come you don't see any horses with COVID? Kidding. Happy birthday. Thank you, Antonio. And that's true. Warren from Toronto. Happy belated, old Matt. You're the man. Thank you, Warren. Jess from the West with a super chat. Had 16 students absent in one of my classes. If they show any symptoms of COVID, can't return until they have a negative test. More class time missed. Stay safe and healthy, Jess. Omega says, I'd buy a building and do income-based rent, prioritizing low-income families and help undo gentrification. If you had $1 million? I don't know. I don't know what the answer is for. I don't know. What's the Skype? I'd love to call in. Doomed live. I don't know if. Oh yeah, I wanted to play this. All right, I'm gonna do this one last audio. If you call in during this time, maybe I'll take your call. So let's do this one last audio clip here because it's too much. So this is the first show back since we started to leave Afghanistan last week. 20-year war coming to a close. Today there was a suicide bombing outside the airport where they are evacuating people from Afghanistan. Apparently, many people died, including 12 U.S. service members. And of course, the right and the mainstream media and the people who they would usually, on the right, classify as the deep state, are attacking the Biden administration for taking us out of Afghanistan, even though it is 100% the right move. And kudos to Joe Biden for sticking to this and going ahead with this and continuing to stay steadfast with this throughout all of the ridiculous criticisms from the war machine and the mainstream media outlets who prop them up. You can be a critic of this administration from the left all you want, but it is absolutely legit to give them props on this. It just is the right move. Hold on, let me just tell this person, wait 1 second. Because I want to play this clip. But now that this loss of life happened, I think you are going to see an even more ridiculous over-the-top attack on the move to leave Afghanistan. Again, the right move. At first, apparently on TV, there were some people who were claiming the Taliban could be responsible for this, even though obviously it made no sense for them to do this. Obviously, the Taliban are not good people, are certainly a problem for the people in Afghanistan. Hold on, I got another call. But they want the operation to come to a close as soon as possible, and they would have no reason to attack. And it didn't make any sense because they didn't. They're clearly a danger to the people of Afghanistan, especially women and children. But this was not something that they did. The attack was ISIS came out and said they were responsible for the attack. And so the right is now coming out, obviously, to talk about how, ISIS is back, something that didn't happen under Trump. Trump defeated ISIS, which obviously, come on, is not true. ISIS was in shambles during the Obama administration because the Obama administration went after ISIS hard due to a number of different terrorist attacks. Trump didn't do zero, but the idea that he completely took out ISIS is ridiculous. But he went on Hugh Hewitt's show to say this. He wanted to take credit for defeating ISIS, but then he went ahead and said something so crazy, even for Trump, and for the right to not say anything about this is just amazing. Here is what Trump said on Hugh Hewitt's show. Give me 1 second to cue it up. Here we go now. Trump on Hugh Hewitt today.
But we have great generals. And I had a certain general that I liked, and we took out ISIS in a very short period of time, wiped them out, and they were gone 100%. Do you remember I wanted to bring them back when we had 99%? And everybody said, no, you didn't do 100%. You got to get 100%, including the fake news media. And when I took it over, the ISIS was all over the place. At 99%, I wanted to get the hell out. And the media said, well, you didn't get 100%. I said, you know what? We're taking another 2 weeks. We're going to get 100%. We got 100%, and they were gone. And they respected us, and they respected me, but they respected us. And don't think that the Taliban wasn't watching, because ISIS is tougher than the Taliban.
First of all, what is he talking about? The 100%, the 99%? He wanted to get out when they were 99% defeated, but all it took was an extra 2 weeks to 100% defeat them. But he didn't want to do that. What? Trump is, And then he goes on to talk about who's worse, because this is how he views everything. Everything is a competition, black and white, right? Something's got to be greater than the other, right? So he goes on and on with that. But wait for it.
And nastier than the Taliban. And ISIS was watching, and then they didn't exist anymore. And we took out the founder of ISIS, al-Baghdadi, and then, of course, Soleimani. Now, just so you understand, Soleimani is bigger by many, many times than Osama bin Laden.
Should also note that the U.S. worked to defeat the Taliban originally, hand in hand with Iran, Soleimani. And then, obviously, later on, to take out ISIS, the U.S. worked hand in hand with Iran to, namely Soleimani, to take out ISIS. Now, I'm not saying we were allies or friends, but we had a common enemy there. And Iran, namely again Soleimani, did a lot of the work to help defeat ISIS. But Trump's got to herald that he killed Soleimani.
The founder of ISIS is bigger by many, many times, al-Baghdadi, than Osama bin Laden. Osama bin Laden had one hit, and it was a bad one, in New York City, the World Trade Center. But these other two guys were monsters.
Hold on, let's rewind a little bit. Jesus Christ.
Is bigger by many, many times than Osama bin Laden. The founder of ISIS is bigger by many, many times, al-Baghdadi, than Osama bin Laden. Osama bin Laden had one hit, and it was a bad one.
Osama bin Laden had one hit, folks. One hit. Oh, my God. You know what he's trying to do here? Obama was responsible for killing Osama bin Laden. It'll always be one of Obama's big victories. He did what Bush couldn't. The reason we went to war in the Mideast in 2001. The reason we were in the 20-year war that's now ending. The reason for the vast majority of our problems all stem from 9/11. The terrorist attack perpetrated by Osama bin Laden. But he didn't get Osama. He's responsible for getting the leader of ISIS that happened under his watch and Soleimani. So he's got to promote it like that was a bigger deal to the American people. Because the American people, for the majority of them, no idea who al-Baghdadi and Soleimani are. Osama is the household name. It was a big one hit he had, according to Trump. There's a lot of one hit wonders in music, right? I mean, it's incredible. Can you imagine the outrage if anyone but Trump said this on the right? The outrage on the right, I should say, just to be clear. If anyone but Trump said this. Can you imagine if Ilhan Omar said this? No, they go after her all the time for misconstruing her criticisms of the U.S. and the wrath this country is responsible for in other countries. They view that as un-American. But Trump literally downplaying Osama bin Laden, responsible for way more deaths in this country than Soleimani and Baghdadi, the worst terrorist attack ever perpetrated on American soil. Thousands of innocent lives lost, and then many more thousands of innocent American lives lost as a result of 9/11 in the aftermath, and then even worse, the hundreds of thousands of people in countries overseas, innocent lives lost, men, women, children, who were victims of our retaliation, our war on terror, as a result of Osama bin Laden's 9/11 terrorist attack. And he just got the one hit, right? According to Trump. No biggie. Just the one big hit. Unbelievable. 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 Anyway, I am glad that we are getting out of Afghanistan. It is a feather in the cap of the Biden administration for getting us out of this 20-year war, something Bush, Obama, and Trump did not do in their 20 or so years where they could have. And just unbelievable. All right, let me take one or two more calls, and then that's the show. Here we go. Hey, what's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Matt. This is Dr. Gus calling from
Florida. One second. Hold on one second. Okay, now you're up. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
This is Dr. Gus calling from Florida.
Hey, what would you like to talk about?
I'm just calling in to talk about COVID a little bit. I'm a veterinarian in Florida. I'm not practicing right now. I'm doing a degree in molecular biology at the university. But basically, I just wanted to call in to talk about ivermectin. I'm not a conspiracy theory. That shit doesn't work for COVID. But we actually use ivermectin a bunch for animals, and it is insane that people are using the horse-based. Like, as crazy as it sounds, it's even crazier. We use ivermectin for dogs a lot for heartworm prevention, and even veterinarians. We don't give ivermectin from one species to another because it is so highly concentrated that it can go extremely wrong. You just literally die if you overdose on it.
Wow.
And yeah, so maybe a week ago, we actually got an email from the Florida Veterinary Association saying that they've gotten reports from veterinarians pushing ivermectin to their clients. There's been obviously an uptick, and that's where it's coming from. It's veterinarians giving it out to clients. Yeah, it's crazy. If you see with all this COVID stuff, a bunch of crazy medical doctors doing all kinds of weird shit, veterinarians, you'll find even crazier people in the profession that are willing to go even farther. So it's a huge problem, and ivermectin is basically a miracle drug for us. It's very similar to an antibiotic. It was found in a bacteria decades ago, and it's magic for parasite control. So the worst thing that can happen now is if it becomes a controlled drug, because it's going to be a nightmare. It's going to ruin people's lives because it's something that we use every day. It's pretty bad.
Now, it's from what it sounds like, it should be shocking that no one has we don't know, but there's been no reports so far that I've seen at the very least of people overdosing on it and dying.
Right, exactly. I think one of the main reasons it's happening that way is because the people that are taking the paste, veterinarian would actually give them a accurate dosing, which is it's perverse to even think about it that way. But for example, it happens a lot for dogs to go blind when they overdose in it.
Wow.
It's a thing that can cross the blood-brain barrier. And yep, you can go blind by overdosing in it. So yeah, it's pretty serious. And something that's not really talked about is how it affects the animal care too, right? For example, a few months ago, I had an owl that was hospitalized here. We had done surgery for broken wing, and then owl was ready to go. And it's a wild animal that you don't want to have caged. And we wanted to put it in a rescue facility, and the rescue facility only takes owls that don't have any diseases. This owl had a parasite in it, so we needed to give a hydroxychloroquine to the owl to get rid of the parasite, and we could not find it anywhere. And this owl was stuck in a cage for 6 months because of crazy people are taking hydroxychloroquine.
Wow, that's crazy. Well, that's amazing. Let me ask you this question, actually, because I read a post that someone put on a Facebook group for people who take ivermectin. This is a anti-vaxxer group. They had a question. They said that it tastes terrible. They asked if they could put the ivermectin horse paste up their butt. Would this have an effect? Can you use ivermectin rectally?
I definitely don't recommend you do that because so well, it's tricky actually because so a lot of these formulations are made to be absorbed through the upper GI, and before they get approved, there's a lot of testing done to see how fast they get absorbed by the mucosa of the gastrointestinal tract. If you put it rectally, the rectum absorbs, I think in some cases faster. So you might get an actual higher dose than you would expect if you take it orally. So definitely don't put it rectally.
Jeez.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. And right now, so keep an eye out. Right now, there's a recent study coming out from Brazil that they found some peptide in a venomous snake, in the venom of a snake that helps decrease. It's like an in vitro study. It decreases the replication of COVID by like 75%. It's kind of meaningless, but yeah, keep an eye out.
What was that with the snake? What was that, snake venom?
Right. So there's a research group in Brazil that recently published a legit paper that saying that they found a peptide, a protein in the snake venom of a Brazilian snake that decreases the replication of COVID in monkey cells by 75. Yeah, by 75%.
Boy, we're gonna be get ready for the next big trend of anti-vaxxers out in like the Amazon, all getting bit by poisonous snakes.
Yeah, and so actually in the 90s in Argentina, there was this craze about a venomous snake being able to be used to treat cancer. It was like crotoxin scare. And people were doing this thing to cure cancer. So I think it's coming for COVID now. Like they're people were like trading snakes and stuff for,
It's amazing that they don't understand what that is actually like when it comes to what you said about the COVID thing. I don't know too much about the cancer one, so I'm not going to mention that. But what the COVID one, like that does seem to be a big discovery. But what people don't understand is you don't go out then and like get bit by these venomous snakes. The point is they try to extract the venom from the snake and then do studies on it to find out what is in the venom that can be extracted to possibly, if it can be at all or whatever. Like they do this research to find out what can be used in like human application. Like they're not saying like we're going to go out and get people, like you go visit your doctor and get bit by a snake to cure COVID.
Right, exactly. And not only that, the biggest step after you find all that, the biggest and most important step is figuring out delivery, like how to get the actual product into your body. And that step is the one that takes the longest. That step is what actually makes the mRNA vaccines. If you ever want to know, this is a little bit of a tangent, but if you ever want to know if someone actually knows what they're talking about when it comes to mRNA vaccines, you just listen to them when they talk about the production. The mRNA itself, it's not a breakthrough. It's like lame shit that we've known for years. What's actually a breakthrough, it is the nanodroplet, the lipid nanodroplet that delivers the vaccine to the cell, that it actually makes it. Because if you just inject RNA into people, nothing happens. Our immune system just attacks it, eats it up, and doesn't produce anything. It's the nanodroplet that actually delivers it to the cell that makes a big difference. And the same thing with drugs. The delivery method is the main thing, the hardest thing to figure out. And these people are just in the very early stages. And then most of these things, like 90%, don't go anywhere because, you just can't figure out how to get it to the right place without hurting the person, right?
Right. Thanks for the call. This was very informative, very interesting. The most important takeaway is that I will definitely not be injecting horse ivermectin up my butt. So thank you.
Yeah, keep it out of your butt. All right, man.
Have a great night.
Thanks for taking the call. Appreciate it. Bye.
Bye. All right. There was one more caller. I'll let them call in right now. And then that's the show. Let me make sure I got all the super chats because I might have seen one just get in under the... No, that's it. If you want to drop a super chat, I'll take it. Here we go. Last caller of the day. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hang on a moment. My Bluetooth is acting up.
Sure.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Uh, I'm Ralph, aka Omega Shenron Dragon. I listen to you guys on Majority Report, and I recently come onto the show.
Oh, awesome. Glad to have you here. I really appreciate you making the jump from MR to this show. It means you're up early in the day and then you're staying up late here too. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm mainly staying up late, working out, doing chores, that whole stuff. But he brought up the Venom thing, and I'm very curious at all the right wingers that make the Bane connection, be like, oh, Venom, protein, and they'd be like, oh, does this make me all jacked or whatever? And then they decide to go to, QAnon has like spread like some stupider shit than that. But could you find it outside the realm of possibility that they would make that connection, think that would make them, even more impervious to things by like just ingesting snake venom or something?
Say that one more time. I didn't follow.
So all the talk about snake venom from the last caller just made me think, imagine if like some QAnon idiot decides to make a Bane type of connection because that's what he takes, but it's not exactly that type of venom. But
right.
And then they think it's something else. With all the ridiculousness that we've heard this year alone, would you think it's outside the realm of possibility?
Absolutely not. I wouldn't surprise me. Nothing is out of the norm, out of the possibility there, honestly. It wouldn't even surprise me at this point if one of them got bit by a spider and then we learned about them leaping to their death as they tried to stick to the side of like a 50-story building or some shit because they thought they were Spider-Man or something. I don't honestly. That story I read the week before last, before I went away for a week, with that guy who murdered his 2 kids because of conspiracy theories like QAnon and the Illuminati are just incredible. Nothing surprises me anymore.
Yeah, it's the whole, like, it just makes me think of that whole reptilian conspiracy theory that I'm like, whatever you believe about it, don't, hurt anybody over that crap. It's like, take it with a grain of salt or whatever, but I would not go that far. I don't understand how half of these people are just like, oh, I would do so and so. The most heartbreaking is the one about the mass shooting survivor that whose dad like started like just going off the walls with that, and then
Right.
Right.
Imagine
that one. I think is the worst.
Imagine falling so deep into a conspiracy theory that you think your own son is lying to you about his involvement in terms of like being a victim of a school shooting. Just incredible.
I never got that.
There's a mass delusion going on in this country. It is people. I think the vast majority, honestly, are people who are unable to come to terms with with this reality, and so they make up this alternative universe where it's just so much easier to understand. Like, people imagine you're someone who had a loss in your life that changed your world. You got some terrible news where you have some, you found out you have some, terrible fatal disease that, you have, years, months, years, whatever time stamp to live, random things like this, life-changing events, and people just can't handle it. And, usually, obviously, maybe people would fall into a depression and get involved in alcohol or other addiction or whatever. But there are now people who are falling into that same trap with conspiracy theories and disinformation. And they are literally, it's like the same thing. Like the same thing you hear about like an alcoholic who ruins not only their own life, but their family's life and the people all around them. It's the same dynamic with people who are falling into conspiracy theories and these disinformation campaigns. It's really, truly like depressing. It's sad to see this happen, honestly. And the problem, the problem is like, that makes it a little bit worse in my estimation is like, if you're an alcoholic, you can't get someone drunk by being an alcoholic and telling people you're an alcoholic and being around family as an alcoholic. They have to drink as well. But you can easily spread those conspiracy theories to people and in turn easily turn other people into that same lifestyle as well.
Yeah, it's just honestly like a really horrible thing, to be honest. I know a guy in Florida who sadly he kind of is, I don't know if he still is, but he kind of is like on the Dad DeSantis hype train or whatever. And then he started like he called it a scamdemic and all that stuff, and I'm like, yikes. And then another dude I know who moved like across the country who believed that same thing too, but he had a premature baby during the beginning of COVID, and yeah, like a few months premature, and had to basically visit that hospital every single day for up until like the month that they were supposed to be born, and get them out. And I'm like, it's incredible that some people just don't, believe in like, oh, like all the stuff that's more universally accepted and known versus like all this other conspiracy stuff that's kind of like, come on, man. It's like you would think after some people having a family or having enough time on this earth that they would be like, you know what, I shouldn't take those conspiracy theories so hard and all this stuff. But you just never know people until the time comes, and then they really just make that assessment. And then, I mean, you care for them as people, but it's like you really can't even remotely mention that stuff to them because you just know your disappointment level is going to shoot up just by mentioning it to them.
Right.
But yeah.
Right. Thanks for the call. I really appreciate it. And thanks for listening.
No, absolutely. And by the way, you totally like. I had a feeling upon seeing your Majority Report the first time, like he totally looks like a wrestling fan, like a New York wrestling fan. We just kind of have like that appearance. I am too, so it's like I totally get it. And then they confirmed that one time, I think you wore a Mick Foley shirt on there. I was like, I freaking knew it.
Right. You see
It's
the
so
shirt?
funny how that
See the
is.
shirt I'm wearing today?
Oh yeah, dude, classic.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for the call. What'd you think about CM Punk's return to wrestling?
Oh, it was great. I was actually pretty happy. I really felt it for that fan that was like, you could see him weeping. That Brock Lesnar guy, I think he needs to stop because I've seen him in shows like when I've gone here, like the 2 shows I've gone in New York and all that. It's like, come on, bro. And even in the hotel, because I have some connections here and there to like hang out with the wrestlers and stuff like that. But he's there with his buddies and in the shirt and everything. I'm like, come on, my guy. Come on, bro. But
Haven't-
yeah, it's like it was nice, and he totally looks like Punk now. Looks like the old Punk guy at the shows that like sits in the back now, and not doesn't rush the front row anymore.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I got to get to a wrestling match. It's been a long time. I haven't been, and not even just COVID days. I used to go a lot back in the late 2000s. Well, I used to go a lot altogether. Even when I was if you watch some of the old ECW shows from the late 90s at the Elks Lodge in Queens, you can frequently see me on a few episodes right by the entrance ramp because those were general admission tickets. So you just have to get there early. And so when you're a junior high school student, a teen with nothing to do after school, you would go straight to after get out of school, go straight to Queens Boulevard, get to the Elks Lodge, wait outside for like 5 hours for doors to open, and then run over to get the best seats for the same price as everybody else. So but I haven't been to a wrestling show in a while. I gotta get there. Yeah. Oh man, thinking about wrestling shows now. Thanks for the call. Really appreciate it.
You too, man. Later. Have a good night.
Peace. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's the show. I saw someone saying, "What? No 3-hour return?" Who said that? Who said that? Ryan Tennant says, "Wow, not even gonna go 3 hours after a week off." I need to not do the 3-hour shows. I think those long, barring big events where like we're getting constant calls and I'm feeling like an adrenaline rush. I think the 3-hour shows. This is already going to be 2 hours and 40 minutes. 3-hour shows, the 4-hour shows I did even. I think that's bad. No good. I think there's a point where the segments aren't as strong as they could be. You could feel the energy starting to drain from me. But folks, this was great. I feel like my energy was at top level. Great to be back. Great guest on the first half. Great second half. Great calls. Great messages. Great IMs. If you're not already a Patreon subscriber, patreon.com/MattBinder. Really appreciate the support. Other than that, see you guys all next time Undoomed. Wait, did I have one more super chat to read? Oh, I did. Maria with a super chat. Clip the vet phone call, Matt. I will. I will definitely clip that call. It was great. And I think it'll be very informative for people. All right. Let's redo that. See you all next time now on Doomed.